Hello, photo students. I am so happy to present to you an interview that I ran across online with Kaylee Greer. She is at the top of her game for animal photography, specifically dogs. She's got a new book out called Dogtography, and you can follow her, go to her website, see all kinds of great photographs in her gallery on dogbreathphotography.com. She is so full of excitement and passion about what she does, and I think that is truly the most interesting part of her personality and what she does. So you'll be able to enjoy that. Something I want to draw your attention to is some comments that she makes during this interview, and that is about being a specialist as opposed to a generalist. And that puts her and I kind of on different sides of the field. I wouldn't say the fence because we're in agreement on so many things, but our approaches to making a living at photography have been totally different. She didn't seek out commercial income from photography. So she just followed her heart to do photographs at the Humane Society of dogs and cats so they could be put in touch with people who would adopt them and they'd find homes. So her passion was really from the heart, and you can just feel that. It's just so refreshing and interesting. And so she has a specific technique and approach, and her subject matter is very, very tightly focused. As you may have heard me describe in previous videos, I went to several different colleges, and I trained as a generalist at the time that I was shooting, which was, last century. A lot of the instructors stressed that we really needed to have a general knowledge of all aspects of photography because you didn't know what you were going to specialize in or specialize at all if you were in a small market. So you really had to have a really good handle on the main areas, and that's people, places, and things. People would be events, weddings, baby pictures, engagement photos, portraiture, both editorial and for family portraits. Places is mainly architecture, but could relate to travel, and things, and that is product photography. So, my degrees were in illustration photography and also industrial scientific photography, and together those created a third degree, which was commercial photography. So I had to take portraits, industrial scientific, and all these, product photography, photo illustration, and all of that. So that made me a generalist, and I never did really specialize in anything, but what I ended up enjoying the most was taking pictures of people, and that happened really in the last 15 years of my career because I gravitated towards that and I really liked it. But so we have a different approach, and both are very, very valid. So you get plenty of my approach in the class, but you'll really find this to be a gem in the comments that Kaylee makes about specialization in photography. I think you're going to really enjoy this, and I want to thank her for her generosity in communicating with me online through numerous emails, giving me clips to use for this video that you're seeing now, and just being available. I really encourage you to buy her book and to take all of that information and use it for your own pets or doing it as a job, because I think actually it's a very viable job that you can do in the small market that we live in. I think you're going to really enjoy Kaylee Greer.
Hello to Professor Lund's photo students. I am Kaylee, dog photographer extraordinaire, and I just wanted to pop in to encourage you to think about getting out there and lending your talents to the adoptable shelter animals at your local Humane Society who need you so much. By helping them tell their stories through the power and magic of photography, you have the ability to give a voice to an animal who has no voice to speak for himself. This is exactly how I started on this very big photography adventure of mine, and it's the single most rewarding thing that I've ever had the privilege to do. If you love animals, pet photography might be right up your alley.
Okay, kiddo, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Every dog has a story,
That's right, you're gonna make you a star.
and every photo's worth 1,000 words.
I thought, why can't I treat dogs like fashion models? And adoption rates started to soar.
Follow Kaylee on her journey
She's the hero that can stand for all these other dogs.
to capture the true spirit
Yes, the head tilt.
inside every dog.
Holy moly, that's it. This is my mission, to help dogs.
Paparazzi. New series premiere Saturday, September 15th at 10 on Nat Geo Wild.
To another episode of This Week in Photo. I am your host, Frederick Van Johnson. Today, we're talking about dog photography. And this specific conversation, and you guys know, I've had people on the show before that specialize in pet and animal photography, but this one's a little different for several reasons. We're going to go into Kaylee's work style and why she shoots what she shoots, how she shoots what she shoots, and this amazing new book that she just released, which is how we came into contact with each other. So Kaylee, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so pumped to be here. And it's going well, relatively well.
Yeah.
You know, given the weird, wild, crazy year where the wheels fell off the world. But other than that, everything's going good, and I'm really grateful to be here. So thanks, sir.
Yeah. So let's dive into this. So Kaylee Greer, you are a photographer. You specialize in animal photography, pet photography, dog photography specifically. So let's rewind a little bit and go into how you got started in this world, this sort of upside down world of shooting furry people instead of models and, you know, all that cool stuff.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, when you show up at a party, you know when parties were a thing,
Yeah.
you know, and you sort of like talk to other people and you get to know people and you meet them and they sort of like ask you, you know, everybody's sort of sizing each other up, right? They're like, so what do you do? What do you do? And then that's when I enter and say, oh, I photograph dogs for a living. And, and people often kind of say like, oh, that's cute. Like, do you do okay with that? You know, or whatever. They find it quite interesting. In fact, I think they probably think like, oh, so you're unemployed, basically.
It's your in-between job.
Exactly right. But actually, it's been, oh man, it's been an incredible, wild ride. I've been photographing dogs professionally for a decade now. So I started my business 10 years ago. I'm based in the Boston area, and my business is called Dog Breath Photography. And basically, since the moment that I began 10 years ago, I started by photographing dogs at the shelter, simply just volunteering my time and trying to make whatever small difference I could make in the lives of these dogs who had no voice to speak for themselves. You know, dogs that had these amazing stories to tell that had no way to tell them. Basically, that's where I figured out that a photograph had the power to save a life, to change a life. And so that's kind of where I started to learn. Yeah. I did go to college for visual arts, and so I had photography as sort of part of my curriculum. And so I kind of, you know, knew a little bit about it, but I wasn't by any means professional or really even good, yeah. Which is okay. That kind of came, you know, over the years as I developed and progressed. But that's just kind of where it all started.
Yeah.
And since I started photographing dogs at the shelter 10 years ago, everything kind of spiraled out of control in the best way possible. I feel like I've been on like a roller coaster ride for a long time. But basically, I started my business, Dog Breath Photography, after that, only because I was getting so many inquiries from people who would see my work, whether they saw me shooting physically at the shelter, maybe there were other volunteers, or it was, you know, people on social media seeing me posting about these dogs and telling their stories. Going back to what you said about the story being such a powerful part of it, like the written text and what I want to say about these dogs to go along with this photo that I hope will stop you in the midst of this very busy world that we live in. You know, we have so much stimuli coming at us at 100,000 miles an hour at any moment of every day. And so how can I make people stop and think and how can I make people consider that this dog's life, matters, and that this dog exists and is waiting for someone to come change his fate, forever. So people kind of started to see that, and that sort of spiraled into, well, hey, I would love to have you photograph my dogs, as maybe for personal artwork, etc. So that sort of turned into this boutique photography business. And then from there, about a couple years into that, I started to get like all these commercial inquiries that started sort of rolling into my inbox kind of organically. I never really seeked them out, but within, 3 or 4 years, I was shooting, campaigns to start off for like smaller brands that were maybe regional, like dog type brands. And we would do little ad campaigns. And then that kind of spiraled from there. And then suddenly, before I knew it, I was shooting like a big ad campaign for Pedigree. So it was weeks on location with big art directors and sets and production, and then after that, I started to teach workshops. So I've been so privileged to be able to go all over the world. I've photographed dogs in like about 14 or 15 countries now. I've taught workshops in France and in Spain, Australia, New Zealand, Costa Rica. But after all the workshops and all that, then I got the craziest thing of all time happened. I mean, I started to see my work in like magazines and in, like I said, ad campaigns and on greeting cards, and it was all so surreal the whole time. Meanwhile, everything has always been fueled by that love that I have for these rescue dogs. So all along, I've been doing rescue work and been very passionate about that. So everywhere I travel, I find a shelter that needs help, that needs and I donate my photography, and I'll help them design websites and whatever they need. So somebody at a big reality television production company saw my work, and I want to say it was on Reddit. I think it was on Reddit. Do you use Reddit at all?
I do. I'm not a big Reddit person, but I skim there every now and then.
I shared some of my work on there with absolutely no expectations whatsoever, but I just saw other photographers like being like, hey, this is what I shoot and this is what I shoot. So I thought, you know what, I'll share what I shoot, which is dogs. And that went kind of wacky. And so yeah, this producer from this television company kind of saw it there. I think it was there, and he came to me and said, listen, like, I think what you do is so interesting, and I'm a producer for this production company, and would you be interested in sharing your story and all your rescue work that you do, and letting us go behind the scenes with you, and could we share it on TV? Would you be interested? And it was wild. It was so crazy wild, and I couldn't.
Would you be interested?
I couldn't imagine. I just couldn't imagine, and it was crazy too. Because when he called me, he wanted to Skype just to like see me and I think just see kind of how I was on like a camera, like a small screen or whatever.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was in Costa Rica, and I was photographing at a shelter there. But I was sitting down to take the call, like in this really cool spot where the ocean was behind me, and there was like all these palm trees around me, and like seriously, right at the moment that he that we picked up the call, like 2 monkeys came down the trees, like right on the other side of me, and I was like, wow, these monkeys are selling me right now so hard because it's making my life look interesting. It was so cool. He was like, are those monkeys? Is that for real? And I was like, I'm volunteering at a shelter in Costa Rica, and they're everywhere. The monkeys are everywhere, and they're so incredible. I love them. But anyway, so super long story short, because I'm the queen of long stories.
Oh, I love this. This is good.
It's just weird. It's wild and weird, and I truly believe that anything is possible. Anything. So they made what they call a Sizzle Reel, which is like how basically how they sell a television show to a network. National Geographic ended up buying the show, which was so crazy. So
wow.
Nat Geo Wild, which is, I can't even tell you, like I could, man, I don't know. I feel like my head could pop off of my body from all the joy. I really can't believe it's real. But so Nat Geo Wild bought like a 3-part miniseries, kind of about me and my life and following me around photographing dogs all over the world. Isn't that wild? So you can actually watch it.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's up now. That's available on Nat Geo now.
So it's on iTunes now, and it's on, I want to say, if you have Hulu Plus, like the fancy version of Hulu, you can get it on there too. It used to be on their website. So basically we filmed them, we did the whole thing, and they were on air on television on Nat Geo in like 2018 and 2019.
Okay.
And then I think sometimes they rerun them now because I do get sometimes like messages from people going, "Oh, I just saw your show and I was watching TV and I saw it and I love your story," or whatever. And I'm thinking, "Oh wow, I guess they still sometimes rerun them."
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah,
What's the title?
crazy.
What's the
It's
title
called-
of the show?
It's called Paparazzi. Paparazzi. Paparazzi.
Paparazzi. Okay.
Yeah.
Razzi. Nice.
Yeah. So it
Okay.
was, as a photographer, as you know, I mean, there's nothing better than National Geographic. It's like the holy grail, right?
Yeah.
For photographers. So it was
Absolutely.
absolutely incredible. Like, what an out of body experience. It was so wild to film that show, to be on location with the crew from Nat Geo and from the production company, and then getting to go to their fancy parties and get-togethers, and the premiere of the show was really cool, and it was a great thing. It was nice. So it's a really cool relationship to have, actually. And at about the same time, and this is so weird because it was completely unrelated, but about the same time, I got the cover of Nat Geo Wild magazine. So
What?
yeah, and I said to them, I said, "Do you know that I have a show in production with you?" When they reached out to me, because they said, "We love your work and we're doing an issue on dogs, and we think that we want to run your." So basically, when they pick out images for potential covers, at least for the Nat Geo Wild magazine, but I imagine it's with probably all their publications, they do like a test run to different. So they pick like maybe 3 or 4 or 5. And they do a test run to certain like focus groups to pick out the cover, which one's the most impactful, right? So they asked me, we just want to try it in a focus group, and we can't, guarantee anything. But so I thought, okay, well, that's cool. I'm sure that, you think you have this limiting belief, right? As an artist, oh yeah, that's fine. That's not going to happen. Sure, you can try it.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to brace for disappointment, right?
I don't know. It's just one of those things, right? You like protect your heart, so you're like,
Of
okay,
course.
try it. Feel free, and that's cool either way. That they considered me. But she came back to me a couple weeks later and said, yeah, they absolutely loved your cover. So your cover is the one we choose. And I said, this is so wild. Did you know I have a show in production with your like television like division? But they had no idea, because I'm pretty sure they're like very disconnected from each other. They're very, very separate entities. But it was a crazy year. That was 2018 for those things. So that's kind of wild. It was
That's crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm thinking there might be something to this dog thing. I think it might catch on. I don't know. it might be a thing.
I just think that's the thing about there's a lot of reasons that I think this all worked out so well for me, but I do think like niching down and being sort of this not a jack of all trades, master of none, but sort of like this, I do this one thing, I do only one thing, and I do it really well.
That is what I want to talk about. We have to talk about that because it's so interesting that you say that, because you have people that are just starting in photography, and they're excited and learning about the gear and light and all that stuff, and trying to establish their style. And there's one school of thought that says, in order to establish who you are as a photographer / artist, you have to shoot many genres, right? You have to figure out, it's like dating. You got to figure out what you like in order to figure out which one you want to be with, right? So, and then there's another school of thought of find something and go 150% on it and figure out if you are good at it. If not, then switch gears to the next thing and go 150%. What do you think? What's the best way? Because it sounds like you found your thing and just drilled down on into it, and now you're becoming known for that thing. What's the best path?
Yeah, that's an incredible question. And I have heard photographers really, really strongly, and successful photographers really strongly argue the former case, which is like, be good at everything. You don't want to be in a situation where you kind of can't handle it, and you don't know how to deal with, shooting a person with a baby in a ballroom with, you want to know how to do everything, which I do believe has some credence. You want to be a master. If you're going to shoot ad campaigns, you need to be prepared for anything. You need to be at the top of your game. But as far as just strictly from a marketing standpoint, doing one thing and one thing only, and doing it incredibly well, I think that's the answer. For me, if you're going to ask me, Kaylee Greer, that question, I would say, when I go to a photographer's website, some people might not like me for saying this, and I feel so bad to say it, but I don't ever want to make anyone feel bad. But it's I'll tell you the truth, and the truth is, if I go to someone's website and I see like a landing page that has like corporate events, headshots, like maternity, newborn, pets, architecture, or whatever, right? Let's just say all those things. I immediately feel like, okay, like these are going to be fine. You know what I mean? That's my initial thought. And sometimes I'm proven wrong. Sometimes somebody is incredible at all those things, but that is absolutely the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
Typically it's, they dabble in lots of things and never chose like a focus. And I feel if you're asking me how it's sort of gone for me with dog photography and not only like how it's changed me as a person and lit up my life with love, and every day is magic, and all I ever want to do is wake up because the next day is so much better than the last day. But even from a business standpoint, financially, the success of the business in general, I think just focusing on one thing has been absolutely my bread and butter, the key.
I love
to
that.
It, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Let me just kind of hone and define who I am as an artist so that I can do better for these dogs. And so that's kind of when I decided to step massively outside of my comfort zone and stop taking photos that looked kind of like all the other photos I'd ever seen of dogs, and say, I want to bring my own sort of unique heart to this, and how do I do that? And so that's when I started to, my fiance is a portrait photographer, and I was on a shoot with him once, and I saw him, he was photographing, he does people. We always say he does the 2 legs, I do the 4 legs. And,
Perfect.
and he was photographing this beautiful musician for the cover of her album. And we had her out like in a forest, and he had all this lighting, like this beautiful, beauty dishes and octoboxes, and I see him kind of manipulating the light and the natural atmosphere. It wasn't in a studio, we still had to deal with the natural light and then kind of balance that with all the strobes and the gels. And I watched him. I stood back holding the, just kind of holding the stand up so the lights didn't blow over, because that was my job, just like an assistant, And it hit me in that moment. I said to myself, like, why can't I treat dogs like fashion models? Why can't I treat dogs like superstars? And so that's when I decided I wanted to try to take things to the next level, and start introducing additional lighting and introducing lenses that you would never traditionally use on a dog, stuff like that. So, I mean, really, that's a really long answer for you about sort of how my style came to be.
Yeah, no, I love that. That is just, normally I would have cut you off in that, but it is riveting, I'm in a journey and seeing how you think about, this genre. So it's really good. So, okay. So what I wanted to end the interview on is just part of the way that or I guess the main way that you and I came in contact with each other was through your book that you've written and published through Rocky Nook. So tell me about the book and
oh my God,
that piece of the whole pie.
I genuinely can't believe, first of all, that I did that. I can't believe I did that. I have like massive inability to focus on things. It's funny, I just talked about focusing in photography on a subject, but when it comes to actually in my daily life, like focusing on a task, oh man, I'm like blinking lights, shiny pennies. I get so excited about a million things at once, and I can't stick on one task. So writing a book was like, oh boy, when Rocky Nook and I when we had this discussion about what, we'd love to maybe work together and, have you do a book for us, I thought, man, I have so much to share. I feel like I have so many sparkly little nuggets about professional dog photography and my 10 years in the field, and talking about all the different things I've seen and experienced, and all my secret tips and tricks on how to get a dog to look at you and how to deal with, this situation or that situation, or an overbearing owner, or a dog that doesn't know how to sit, or whatever. I could go on and on. However, I just knew that it was going to be nearly impossible for me to like organize all that information in my head and put it into a book in a cohesive, sort of organized, outlined format that would be nice and enjoyable to read, rather than just being this total, for lack of a better term, I don't know if I should swear, but let's say shoot show. But you know what I mean? Because that's what, that's kind of what comes out of my head right away. It's like this big like scribble of like junk and colors and sparkly things, and then I have to organize it all. So, I mean, it was, what? I do have to thank COVID for is I was forced into having to focus, and I had no distractions, right? Because it was like, well, the government is telling me I cannot, leave my house. I cannot travel. I cannot. So let me just chill out for a minute, because I'm always I'm 800 miles an hour every day, every moment. I have to go. I have this to do. I want to volunteer here. I got, look at the light. Oh, the light is so pretty. Look at the light. Let's go outside. We have to take a picture. It's never ending. So COVID really did force me to stop and say, okay, let me reevaluate priorities. And I think it did that for a lot of people. But when it came to writing the book, it was a massive savior, because I really had no choice but to stay home and say, okay, well, today I have nothing else at all going on except for, I'm going to write 10 pages or whatever. I'd made a goal every day. And so I did it. I put everything into an outline, and I organized all the crazy stuff in my brain, and I made a book, and I can't believe it exists. It just came out only a couple weeks ago.
It's beautiful. It is beautiful. It is a beautiful book. Congratulations on it.
Thank
well
you so
done.
much.
Well, very well done. So tell, for the folks that are listening that want to know, say what's this book? Tell me about it. Who's the book for? What's the purpose of the book, and what can people get out of it?
So the book is called Dogtography, a knock your socks off guide to capturing the best dog photos on Earth.
My niece took it. Yeah, she's got it.
I love it. So Dogtography is a guide to photographing dogs, but it is not necessarily just for professional photographers. It could be for anyone. So in this day and age, there's a lot of people who have Instagrams and social media accounts for their dogs. Love it or hate it, it's a thing. It exists. So I think a lot of people in the world in general just want to take better photos of their own dogs. So this is great for them. But it also is very heavy on the specifics of how to photograph dogs professionally as well, in terms of it addresses, SLRs and different models of SLRs and different lenses. And so it's really good for people who are maybe already professional photographers, but they might want to add pets to their arsenal, or just even know how to deal with it better when a client, if you're a portrait photographer, for example, and your client shows up with their dog and they want them to be a part of the Christmas card, in order to capture that in the most magical and best way that you possibly ever could, this will help you with that as well. But also, really, if you want to become a professional dog photographer and kind of do nothing else, this book is definitely for you, because it talks all about kind of my processes and what goes on at sessions, and then just really the A to Z of photographing dogs on location professionally. Not only does it cover natural light, if you're not really interested in adding strobes or artificial light, if that's a little bit out of your, some people really love natural light photography, and that's what their thing is. And so when you look at my work, you might think that I don't shoot natural light, but actually I shoot a ton of it, and it's all in the book. And then also I talk about strobes, and I talk about locations, and I talk about giving back and photographing at rescues. You
put it all in there. You put it all in the book, and it's a big book, and I'll put up a graphic of the book so people can see it. But yeah, it's a substantial book. Yeah, so you're it's like the Bible for dog photography, right?
Yeah, well, I'd like to think that it could become the one go-to book, for professional dog photographers.
Yep.
When I first turned in the manuscript, the folks at Rocky Nook are so wonderful. My editor was like, Kaylee, this is so awesome, but this is going to be 600 pages long if we publish it like this. This is too much. Which I guess if you learned anything about me from this interview, that brevity is not really my strong suit, so I struggle with that. So it was really long. And then they took out a couple chapters. So it was kind of, the extraneous stuff. They're like, all right, listen, we got this. We kind of got to whittle this down a little bit and get this to a reasonable size book. And it's still huge. So, I really shared everything that I have ever learned in my last 10 years of photographing dogs professionally, not only for private clients, that I kind of shoot all over, the Boston area, the country, and then even the world. But also what I've learned on commercial sets, kind of producing shoots, professional ad campaign type shoots, and
Yeah.
then rescue stuff, and then it goes on and on. It's exhausting.
That's great. That is great. Those chapters that kind of fell on the cutting room floor, you should convince Rocky Nook to release those to like your community as kind of the missing chapters of the book or something.
Yeah,
That'd be really cool.
yeah, I was thinking that, like bonus content or something.
Yeah, totally. All right, well, cool. This has been fantastic. Thank you for, like I said, taking the time on a holiday break to sit down with me and do this. If people want to connect with you online or reach out and chat or see more of your work, what's the best location for them to go to?
So you can see all my fun dog photos if you just want to peruse at my website, which is www.dogbreathphoto.com. I also am pretty active on Instagram. So on Instagram, I'm at dogbreathphotography. Facebook is relatively active too, and that's facebook.com/dogbreathphoto. Oh gosh, I always forget. It's either Dog Breath Photo or Dog Breath Photography on Facebook, but you'll find me. Just look it up.
You'll find it.
And then,
Yeah.
and the book, and you can get the book on Amazon, or you can get the book directly through my publisher, Rocky Nook. Either website, whatever you choose, you just search Dogtography or search my name. Either way, it'll come up, and it's pretty rad because it exists. And can you believe it? We already sold through the first print run. I can't believe it.
That's
I know,
cool.
it's only been like 2 or 3 weeks, 3 weeks or so that's been out, something like that.
That is cool. Yeah, and I'll put the links to all those URLs that you mentioned in the YouTube description and also on the blog post, so people can find it easier.
That's so awesome. Thank you. That is so awesome. I'm so grateful that we had the chance to catch up and talk, and
Yeah.
I don't, just like you said, in between this kind of downtime, holiday time, plus in the weirdest year of all time, it's nice to connect with other people, even if it does have to be virtually these days,
Yeah. We do what we can until we can do what we want, right? So
I love it. That's such a beautiful way to look at all of this. Yes.
Yep. That's exactly what it is. Well, cool. Thank you so much for doing this, Kelly. This has been educational, obviously, and inspirational. I'm excited. I need to get another copy of that book now that mine vanished. So I'm gonna get another copy. Thank you. Yeah. Hook
No
me
worries.
up.
I got you.
Well, you keep doing what you're doing because clearly it's working and the world is better for it. So thank you for everything.
Thanks again for having me.
This is Twit.